hair was the thorn crown, the seatbelt was the cross, and the bullets were the nails. And that car was his coffin.
To Brooklyn, to Flint, to Standing Rock, to Pine Ridge, to Los Angeles, to Houston, to New Orleans, to Pompano Beach, that's where my daddy's from, to Puerto Rico, to U.S. Virgin Islands, to the Black, Brown, Indigenous, Asian, Pacific Islander, white, lesbian, gay, straight, bi, queer, trans, poor, inmate, citizen, immigrant, undocumented, disabled, abled, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist, practitioner of Voodoo, Candomblé, and Yoruba. Brother, sister, mother, father, lover, and loved one, I see you, we see you. I believe you. I love you through action. You deserve to spend your days in dignity and in the pursuit of happiness. That's what's written in this Constitution and our country. And you deserve a country and a government and a system that respects your rights. And that's what we're fighting for.
We're all in this together. Each and every last one of you. We are here to support one another as we fight for justice. I'm Valerie. My son was Philando Castile. It's been 452 days since I last saw my son, when I last hugged my son, when I last kissed my son, when I last told my son that I loved him.
My skin is black. My arms are long. My hair is woolly. And my back is strong. Strong enough to take the pain inflicted again and again.
We are not asking whether or not justice is even possible on stolen lands. We are not working to envision what that will even look like. We are not working together. We do not know each other. We do not know how to communicate with each other, but we're trying.
I did everything humanly possible to protect my kids. I said, if you want to carry a weapon, go get your license. My son started working when he was 13 years old, and he was gainfully employed until he was ruthlessly murdered by the Falcon Heights police. After all that, we did everything we could. All the evidence they had video from the dash cam in the car. They had audio, and then they had the aftermath, which I'm sure a lot of you saw my son take his last breath. And in his last breath, he did a dying declaration where he said, I wasn't rich. He told the officer, he said, sir, I have a weapon in the car. And instead of him giving my son direct commands to stop moving, don't worry about the license, just put your hands where I can see him. He shot in that car with no regards for human life. He shot my son 5 times. 5 times. And he was still strapped in the seatbelt. His lifeless body with bullets still protruding from his skin. How they had cut my son open trying to save his life. I'm still wondering, where on this planet do you tell the truth and you be honest and you still be murdered by the police? Come on, somebody help me out right now. You know, I always knew there was a silent war on black people and people of color, but now it's not silent no more. You got video, audio, and it don't mean shit. That came out the police mouth. I'm not just saying that. I'm saying what the police said. And then the police pull over a white woman. She's scared. He said, what you afraid of? We just killed black people. Y'all saw it on TV, all on Facebook. Y'all saw it. Yeah, he did. He said that, and that's what it is. Because that's what he believed. That's what he believed. Because racism is alive. They have infiltrated the government, the jails, the police department. White supremacists is all over the place. And they don't care, and they showing it even more. I mean, nowadays, you can't even walk down the street. Some white person just, oh, nigga. They doing it all the time.
When we deal with police shootings and killings, the killings of like Terrence Sterling here in Washington, D.C., the old story, unarmed and killed by the Metropolitan Police Department. Not convicted, not indicted, never missed a paycheck, and never had to go off the force. Or Alonzo Smith, who was killed by special police here in Washington, D.C., and no one has been held accountable. Or just a few miles from here, you had Richard Collins III, who was a Bowie State University student and was visiting people at College Park campus of the University of Maryland, and a white supremacist came along and stabbed him to death days before he was to graduate, days before he was to go into the U.S. military as a lieutenant, and you didn't hear crap from this White House. You didn't hear crap from this so-called president. The White House that sits behind us is a house that was built by slaves. Slaves enriched this country so that folks can enjoy white privilege today. It is because of the labor of slaves, my ancestors, those who went before me. And so when we call out Black Lives Matter, it is because historically Black lives have never mattered.
I may not be a citizen, I might not have legal status, but I am an American, because you know what it means to be an American and what it means to love this country? It means that you recognize and you remember the history of this nation. It means that you recognize and you know that this nation was built on the land of Native Americans. To be an American means that you know and you understand that this land was built on the back of African slaves. To be an American, you know and you understand that if you're not native to this nation, and if you were not brought here by force, you came from immigrants. When it's an American, it's somebody who actually sees what's happening in this nation and does something about it. And you know what we can do? We can start with calling it what it is. Everything that is happening right now with the undocumented community, with the black community, with the Muslim community, with the people of color, everything is about white, can we call it what it is? It's white supremacy, not just in the White House, not just in the building behind you, but it's white supremacy in all levels of government. It is white supremacy that has continued to oppress our communities, and we have to call it what it is.
The dismantling of our healthcare, the Muslim ban, the banning of trans people in the military, the ongoing state-sanctioned violence against communities. And need I remind you that nearly half the U.S. population is poor or low income, that 1 in 7 people live below the federal poverty line, and black women, all black women, trans, lesbian, cis, non-gender conforming, all black women are at the heart of this struggle. Our Native brothers and sisters suffer from some of the most egregious violations against their human rights, and millions of us live with the consequences of inadequate health care, housing, food, education, and employment, and with criminal justice and immigration systems that discriminate against people of color, perpetuate racial, ethnic, and gender oppression, and penalize poor people, denying millions access to safety, equality, and justice. We must ask, who are the poor and why are we poor in an age of unparalleled wealth and innovation? Indeed, as more and more people are thrust into the ranks of a global poverty class, the system is finding new ways to shed its accountability and to criminalize poverty. As more people die each year as a result of structural violence than armed conflicts, the ideology of free market capitalism is well at work in masking class conflict and the reality that the laws and structures of our global capitalist system create poverty. While everyday people suffer the reality of unemployment, depressed wages, expanding homelessness, increased criminalization, forced overtime, and a continued reduction of benefits, the economic system that produces and allows for these consequences to exist is deemed infallible. It is our vote that will make the difference. Our vote can send a powerful message by supporting representatives who bring fresh ideas that work on behalf of us in our local communities. We can build power and strength towards policies to change our damaged immigration laws, our damaged education policies, and violations against our reproductive rights. Our experience has taught us that art and culture are some of the most powerful ways we have to unite people across difference and express the values our society must start treating as truly sacred. Art and culture is a vehicle for sharing and connecting stories, lessons, and values that are illuminated in this movement. It helps us build a community of shared struggle that cuts across the many boundaries that often divide us and reclaim our full creativity that is needed to build the just society we know is possible. If one day I am blessed with grandchildren and they ask me, what did you do when black women, any black women, regardless of what gender they were assigned at birth, were being murdered in the streets, when unarmed people of color were being gunned down by police, when beautiful people were being threatened and labeled as enemies because of their religions, when people were being torn from their families, when our government lied and cheated us, what did you do when you let a narcissistic, pathological, hate-filled, racist, white supremacist become president? What did you do?